What's up, everybody, and welcome to NFL Nexus. You know, in the NFL, no move ever happens in a vacuum. A player getting signed way over in Green Bay can be a direct result of a tough choice made back in Indianapolis. And today, we are unpacking one of the most fascinating domino effects of this offseason. It's a chain reaction that connects two teams, two absolute star players, and millions, and I mean millions, of dollars in salary cap strategy. If you love this kind of deep dive football analysis, hey, do me a favor, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this explainer a like. And as we go, I really want to know what you think, so drop a comment below. Who do you think comes out on top in this whole situation? The Colts or the Packers? All right, let's get into it. So, on the surface, right, the Indianapolis Colts letting a star wide receiver test the waters of free agency and then trading away a linebacker, well, they might seem like two totally separate things. But as we're going to show you today, they are deeply strategically connected. And this isn't just a story about the Colts. It's about how their decisions actually forced the Green Bay Packers into a really tough spot and then gave them a brilliant way out. We're going to start with the Colts at their crossroads, then dive into the absolutely explosive player they're about to lose, analyze the Pro Bowl replacement they've already shipped out, and then we'll pivot to see how the Packers just masterfully played the whole situation. By the end, you'll see how this whole web of contracts and consequences is going to shape the future for both of these franchises. All right, so let's set the stage. We're in Indianapolis, and for their general manager, Chris Ballard, this is a legacy-defining offseason. It really is. The Colts, they've got a promising young quarterback in Anthony Richardson, but the roster around him, it's at a critical tipping point. You know, they're not at the bottom of the league, but they're not exactly a Super Bowl contender either. So the decisions they make right now, who to pay, who to let go, who to build around, that's what's going to decide if they can take that next big step and become a real force in the AFC. The pressure is on, big time, and the first domino is just about to fall. Okay, so the situation really just boils down to this. Two major contributors are on their way out the door. The first is their wide receiver, Alec Pierce, who's their #1 deep threat, and he is set to get a massive, massive contract in free agency. The second guy is linebacker Zaire Franklin. I mean, the absolute heart of their defense, and a recent All-Pro, who has already been traded away. Look, losing one of these guys would be a pretty big blow. Losing both? That represents a fundamental shift in the whole team's identity and their strategy. It is a high-stakes gamble that could either pay off huge or, well, it could set the franchise back for years. And this, right here, brings us to the big question that's driving our whole analysis today. When you let two players of this caliber walk out the door, are you signaling a full-scale rebuild? You know, tearing it all down to the studs? Or is this something different? Is this a strategic reload, a calculated move to reallocate all those resources and come back even stronger? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. Okay, so let's dive into the first and, you could argue, the most important domino of them all, wide receiver Alec Pierce. His free agency is the catalyst for pretty much everything else we're going to talk about. The money that's tied up in his next contract is what's forcing the Colts to make these other tough decisions. And to really understand why he's worth so much and why that's a huge problem for Indianapolis, you first have to understand the specific, and I mean rare, skill set he brings to the field. You see, Alec Pierce isn't just a good receiver, he is the absolute definition of a deep threat weapon in today's NFL. So what does that actually mean? Well, think about it from a defensive coordinator's perspective for a second. When Pierce is on the field, you can't just play your normal defense. You have to account for his game-breaking speed on every single play. That means you're probably putting two defenders on his side of the field, or you're telling your safety to play 20 yards deep. And that creates this huge ripple effect. With that safety playing so deep, there's suddenly way more room for tight ends in the middle of the field and more space for slot receivers to run free. It also means there's one less defender in the box to stop the run. He's like a gravitational force that just makes life easier for every single one of his teammates, even when the ball's not coming his way. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote here from ESPN's Ben Solak, it just puts it perfectly. He's not just one of the most explosive guys, he is the most explosive receiver in the entire league over a 2-year stretch. That's not just hype, folks. That's a statement that is backed up by some serious data, which just adds a whole other layer of credibility to his reputation. All right, now let's put some hard numbers on that reputation. 21.8. Over the past 2 seasons, that is Alec Pierce's average yards per reception. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. In today's NFL, where the short passing game is king, where teams are thrilled with a 5-yard gain on first down, Pierce is averaging almost a first down and a half every single time he catches the football. This isn't just good, it is a statistical anomaly. It tells you this is a player who is constantly, consistently creating those huge field-flipping plays. And this chart, wow, this just brilliantly shows how totally dominant he's been in this one area. I mean, look at this. He isn't just leading the league, he's in a completely different stratosphere. The gap between him and the guy in second place, Jamison Williams, is over 4.5 yards. That is the same kind of gap you might see between second place and, like, 10th place. He has basically created his own tier of explosiveness. It's a level of production that you just can't easily go out and replace.
But here's the thing. Here's what makes Pierce a truly elite, franchise-altering talent. He is not just a one-trick pony. The NFL is full of speed guys who can run fast in a straight line, right? But a lot of them are smaller guys who can get pushed around. Pierce is different. At 6'3", 211 pounds, he's got the physical frame of a classic #1 receiver. This means physical corners can't just jam him at the line. It means when the ball's in the air, he can use that big body to shield defenders and go win those 50-50 balls. And it means after the catch, he's got the strength to break tackles and turn a 20-yard gain into a 40-yarder. This mix of world-class speed and legit WR1 size, it's incredibly rare. And it's exactly why he's about to become a very, very rich man.
And all that explosiveness, it translates directly into points on the scoreboard. 17 career receiving touchdowns. This proves he isn't just piling up a bunch of empty yards between the 20s. He is a legitimate red zone threat and a proven scorer who just knows how to find the end zone. His size gives him a huge advantage on those fade routes, and his speed is an absolute nightmare on post routes. This combination of big playability and a knack for scoring is exactly what every offensive coordinator in the league dreams of. So, here's the crucial point. This kind of elite production, it comes with an elite price tag. The market projections for Pierce's next contract are somewhere in the high $20 million range for average annual value. I mean, that would put him right up there among the top paid receivers in the entire sport, in the same neighborhood as guys like A.J. Brown and Stephon Diggs. And for a team like the Colts, who have other big needs and other young players they need to pay, this creates a massive, massive financial problem. This really is the heart of the dilemma for Indianapolis. Do you commit that kind of cash to one single player, even if he is a uniquely explosive one? Or do you decide that those resources are better spent building up other parts of the roster, like your offensive line or your secondary? It is a classic debate of quantity versus quality, and it's the decision that sets that very first domino in motion. Now, remember that whole quality versus quantity debate we were just talking about? Well, the Colts have already shown us their hand, because while they're still sweating over Alec Pierce's contract, they've already made a preemptive move to free up some resources. They've traded away the anchor of their defense, linebacker Zaire Franklin. Now, on the surface, this move might seem crazy. I mean, why would you get rid of an all-pro player? But when you look at it through the lens of the Pierce situation, it actually starts to make a whole lot more sense. To understand why this trade is such a big deal, just look at Franklin's resume. The guy was a second-team All-Pro in 2024. He led the entire NFL in tackles that same year, with a staggering 174. And maybe the most impressive thing about him? He is an absolute Iron Man. He's made 42 consecutive starts and has missed only one game due to injury in his whole career. He is the definition of productive and reliable. This isn't just some good player. This is a foundational piece of your defense. So, to put it simply, Zaire Franklin isn't just some depth guy the Colts decided to move on from. No way. He's an 8-year veteran, a tackling machine, a true leader in the locker room, and one of the most durable players at a really punishing position. He's the guy who wears the green dot on his helmet, relaying the plays from the sideline. Losing a player like this leaves a huge void, not just in terms of what he does on the field, but in the actual heart and soul of your defense. And this is where our story gets even bigger. The Colts' decision to trade Zaire Franklin, it didn't happen in a bubble. They needed a trading partner, and they found a very motivated one in the Green Bay Packers. See, the Packers were facing their own ticking clock, their own financial doomsday scenario at the linebacker position. And the Colts, by putting Franklin on the market, they inadvertently just handed them a lifeline. This wasn't just a trade. For the Packers, it was a strategic masterstroke that solved their single biggest offseason problem in one single move. So the Packers were dealing with their own big financial headache at linebacker. Their starter, Quay Walker, a former first-round pick from 2022, he's a pending free agent. Now, Walker has been incredibly productive. I mean, he's rattled off 4 straight seasons with over 100 tackles. That kind of consistent production from a former first-rounder means one thing. He is about to get paid, and paid handsomely, on the open market. Green Bay knew they were probably going to get priced out. And this slide right here, this is the absolute key to understanding this entire chain reaction. Just look at the numbers. The Packers could try to re-sign Quay Walker for something like $15 million a year, a contract that would make him one of the highest paid inside linebackers in the whole league.
Or they could trade for Zaire Franklin, who's going to have a cap hit of just $7 million in 2026. They're getting a player who is arguably just as productive. He's a more recent All-Pro for less than half the projected cost. It is an absolutely incredible piece of business by that Green Bay front office. But this move is so much more than just saving some money. It's a masterful strategic play. By getting Franklin before Walker even hits free agency, the Packers have completely insulated themselves. They've essentially pre-placed his replacement. So now, instead of getting into a bidding war they might not win, or losing Walker for nothing more than maybe a compensatory pick a year from now, they have an all-pro level starter already in the building. It turns a position of extreme vulnerability into one of strength and financial stability. Just brilliant. To really appreciate the genius behind these moves, on both sides, you have to follow the money. Every single decision in the NFL is ultimately a move in a high-stakes chess match against the salary cap, and both the Packers and the Colts are playing it with very different strategies. Look at this number. This shows the Green Bay Packers salary cap situation after they acquired Zaire Franklin. They are still almost $2 million over the cap. This is so important. It just highlights how much financial pressure they're really under. They simply didn't have the flexibility to even think about getting into a big bidding war for Quay Walker. The Franklin trade wasn't just a smart move. For them, it was an absolutely necessary one to get their financial house in order. So let's just break down Green Bay's thinking into these 4 simple steps. Step 1. They recognize they're about to lose a really productive starter, Quay Walker, who's going to command a massive contract. Step 2. They look at their books and see they're already in the red, over the salary cap, which really limits their options. Step 3. They pull the trigger on the trade for Zaire Franklin, getting an all-pro player for a cap hit that's less than half of what Walker would have cost. And step 4. In one single move, they've secured a replacement, added a veteran leader, and created future financial flexibility. That is how you win the offseason. And now we come full circle, right back to Indianapolis. The Franklin trade wasn't just about getting a draft pick. It was about financial flexibility. The cap space they saved by trading him is one piece of the puzzle. The much, much bigger piece, though, will be the nearly $30 million a year they'll save by not re-signing Alec Pierce. They are consciously choosing to move on from 2 of their most productive players to create this war chest of cap space and draft picks. Their bet is that they can use those assets to build a deeper, more well-rounded team, even if it doesn't have the top-end star power it once had. It's a really bold strategy, and honestly, only time is going to tell if it's the right one. So, the dominoes have officially fallen. The trade is done, the pending departure is set. But what happens now? What does the future actually hold for the Colts and the Packers after these huge, franchise-altering decisions? The ripple effects of these moves, well, they're going to be felt for years to come. These are the billion-dollar questions, aren't they? For the Colts, the challenge ahead is immense. You can't just snap your fingers and replace the league's most explosive deep threat and a linebacker who is the NFL's leading tackler. They now have massive holes to fill, and their success is going to depend entirely on how smart they are with their newfound draft picks and cap space. For the Packers, the question is a little different. They made a smart, financially sound move. But is a value-based signing like Franklin really enough to push a team that's been stuck in the playoffs over the top? Does it truly make them a Super Bowl contender, or just a really fiscally responsible one? And that brings us to our final big picture question. This whole saga really just boils down to one fundamental question of how you build a team. For a team like the Packers that is right there on the cusp of contention, is proven cost-effective value a better bet than paying a huge premium for homegrown potential greatness? It's a philosophical debate that really defines modern team building. And the Packers have clearly made their choice. They've chosen the smart, sustainable path. But will it be enough to get them a Lombardi trophy? Well, that remains to be seen. So who do you think won this complex chess match? The Colts, who are betting it all on a full-scale reload, or the Packers, who made that really savvy value play? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this explainer here on NFL Nexus. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, please think about liking it and subscribing to the channel. Also, if you're looking for a fun way to support us and share your love of football, we've actually created a series of football-themed coloring books. They're great for fans of all ages, perfect for kids, or even for adults just looking to unwind. You can find the link for them in the description or just use the QR code right there on your screen. Your support is what allows us to keep making deep dives just like this one. We'll see you next time.